Hey, once again, we're back. So, this is the time when I brought our beloved lizard, Polaris, back to life after he suddenly but very peacefully passed away. And it's also a story of when I learned a very valuable lesson not to mess with the natural order of things because it could go very traumatic and not so peaceful. So this happened years ago. My children were small, and it was a very tough time in our lives. Their lives were full of turmoil. Mine too. It was a difficult time to say the least. So the day that my daughter found this tiny lizard in her shoe and begged me to keep this little lizard as a pet, I did hesitate at first, but ultimately said, I got to do something nice for these kids. I want them to be happy, and what can I do? And this is something that would make them happy. So I said, okay. We got him a little home. We named him Polaris, and he instantly was a beloved member of this family. Well, one day we were off to go see this annual Christmas tree lighting ceremony we always go to every year. So, of course, we went and said goodnight and goodbye to Polaris, and he just didn't look right. He didn't look well. In fact, he was dead. And I freaked, the kids freaked, we're all crying, can't believe this has happened. The kids immediately, all on their own, start creating cards for him to say goodbye, to tell him they love him, to wish him well on his journey to lizard heaven. And I'm watching all this happen, and I don't know what to do. And so the only thing I can think of is to not let this happen. So I grab Polaris and I kind of flip him upside down into the palm of my hand, and I start rubbing him from top to kind of tail, like underneath his little chin to this tail. And I'm not rubbing super hard, but enough. I'm not doing compressions because all this stuff probably would have squirted out that little tiny thing. And I'm rubbing him and telling him, Polaris, you can't do this. You can't do this to the kids. Please come back. Please come back. Give us another chance. We love you. The kids love you. And I just keep rubbing his little belly. And suddenly he kind of jolts. And we have now just witnessed a miracle. And we are rejoicing in that moment and rejoicing in the fact that Polaris is back with us. It's extremely exciting. Everyone is happy and grateful and thankful. And so we end up putting him back in his cage, go to the Christmas tree lighting ceremony, and that's it. Within a week, I would say, he started developing like this little black mark on the side of his body. Small. And then as the days went on, it grew bigger and bigger and bigger. And, I Googled this. I really didn't find anything. I called a vet. We really didn't have a vet for the lizard, but I called just a random one, and they couldn't really say anything. They basically told me he's a garden lizard. They don't live very long, which I found interesting because when I was a kid, I had a pet lizard. Her name was Lizzie. And she lived a very long time. But anyway, so they said, there's nothing we can do. So anyway, we just kept watching him and hoping he was getting better, but it just kept getting bigger and bigger, this little black mark, and suddenly he died. And I decided then I could not bring this poor thing back to life. And so we said our goodbyes. We gave him a nice little funeral, and the kids and I still talk about Polaris. And with any storm, often there comes a rainbow. And in this case, the rainbow was something that will always probably stay with me. Is a very good friend of mine who is very logical. She's smart and she's very type A. And, she's the friend that out of the group when we're out to dinner, she's the one that figures out who owes what tip we have to do. I am certain when I'm talking about my angels, in the back of her head, she's saying to herself, that makes no sense. That cannot be possible. I mean, no way. But she's such a good friend. She just kind of nods and smiles at me and gives me loving looks. Anyway, she kind of looks at me and says, you have got to promise me And she says it with the most sincere, serious face. You must promise me that if I ever die in front of you, you do not bring me back. I do not understand what you just did, but do not. It did not go right. It's Pet Sematary all over. And she's right. I will never do that again. Although I guess if somebody were dying in front of me, I would really try and save their life. But so anyway, that is the story of when I brought our sweet Polaris back to life. So please go ahead and subscribe, like this video, comment below, tell me, have you ever had anything like this happen to you? Was there a case of a pet that it wasn't their time to go in your mind? Anyway, thank you so much. Like, share. Thank you so much for everything.